Sometimes self-belief really comes in when you realize it's not about you. Because when we're focused on ourselves all the time and we're trying really hard to, do really great in life, we're so one-track minded, we're playing so small that we're just nitpicking ourselves and focusing on all the little things that don't matter. But when you get out of your own way and you start to see a bigger vision and you start to feel like your life can impact more than yourself, it's amazing how much it gets you to move. Yeah, every day is different, but I do think it's possible to maintain consistency around this topic just through building the muscle of self-belief on a regular basis. So let me get into it. So on the next, is it not good? Okay. I made these goofy, this goofy slide. So this one's maybe sounds a little harsh, but I really do think self-belief is a choice. I really believe you are the architect of your life. There's a reason why, I call my program and my business Life Design by Jesi, because I genuinely think in every moment of every day, we are actively choosing our life. And some people will say, no, well, life is happening to me. There's hard things that we all go through. How could you say that? But when life gives us things that we go through, I do think it's providing an opportunity for how we respond to the experience that we're having. So, it's not to be bypassy. It's just to say, you know what? You can choose different in every moment. That is the free will that we get. Maybe not the experiences that happen to us, but the way that we choose to respond to it. So I've always been of the belief that it is a choice. Well, actually not always, but when I started to notice that my self-belief changed and my life started to improve and I started to become more the version I've always wanted to be, I noticed it was when I started to view it as a choice versus feeling like, I don't know how to believe in myself. Belief isn't something I get to have because, life doesn't love me. It was just such a switch that finally happened. Just to share, a little bit of my story is just, I really want to keep in mind that even if maybe somebody listening to this call, in the replay, maybe they are somebody who is really struggling with self-belief or they can't seem to tap into that for themselves. I just want to really share that it takes one seed being planted in your life for everything to change. So I really personally struggled with self-belief for a long time. I was actually the girl who I was so self-conscious and so just like, I just didn't like myself really at all. And I didn't think anybody cared about me. I was all these wounds I was carrying to the point where I would walk with like a hunchback because I was always looking at the ground. I was always looking down and not, I just didn't feel worthy of anything. And so I carried myself like that through a very long time, probably through my 20s, until my late 20s when the seed got planted for me. Now, the seed was, I was invited, and this is where I want to say sometimes in order for you to have self-belief, it takes being in a new environment, because sometimes your environment is going to foster this negativity or this pain that we can feel in our life, because everything's the same. Nothing is sparking newness or a new state change, which is what can allow us to start thinking differently and think more in a positive light. So sometimes too, it's not always you, it's your environment or the people you're surrounding yourself with. So what happened was, in my late 20s, I was invited to go to a conference in San Diego, and I lived in Seattle at the time. And this conference was for entrepreneurs. And now, mind you, I was corporate girly. I was a technical recruiter, climbing the ladder in all the big companies in Seattle tech scene. And I had never thought about owning a business. In fact, my mom was a business owner my whole life. She's owned multiple businesses, and I just saw the grind. I saw the grind my whole life of her owning these businesses very successfully. But I just remember being like, I want no part of that. Like, that looks awful. And so I just never really saw myself as being able to be an entrepreneur, but I was invited to go to this conference. And what happened is I got ignited with a new spark, a new possibility of seeing something bigger for my life through doing something with all my coaching abilities, my mentoring, gifts that I had on the side that I've been, I felt like life gave me. I felt like, oh my gosh, maybe I can do something with this. And it was the first time I started thinking bigger than myself. And that's one of the points I want to make too. Sometimes self-belief really comes in when you realize it's not about you. Because when we're focused on ourselves all the time and we're trying really hard to, do really great in life, we're so one-track minded, we're playing so small that we're just nitpicking ourselves and focusing on all the little things that don't matter. But when you get out of your own way and you start to see a bigger vision and you start to feel like your life can impact more than yourself, it's amazing how much it gets you to move. Because you're like, oh, I'm doing this not just for myself anymore. I'm in a co-creation now. And that was a little bit of what I tapped into. Now, it was a journey since then. It's been over 5 years, almost 6 years now, which is crazy, of facing myself, because I always tell people an entrepreneurship journey is the most spiritual journey you could go on, because you have to face yourself and grow and evolve and shed at crazy fast rates in order to serve and, be successful. So yeah, I was just facing all these blocks and whatever, but I share that story because, it was just, I was the person who went from literally feeling like I didn't deserve to take up space in this world to feeling worthy and feeling like I wanted to help people. And then it wasn't just, like all at once, all of a sudden I believed in myself. There's been a journey from there. But part of that journey too is getting to the point that I'm at now. It really was about not listening to other people's advice, because the whole journey of starting a business, right? I was going from the girl who had zero confidence and didn't like herself at all to wanting to start a business, feeling lit up, and then asking everybody else for the answers because I thought everybody else knew the way to be successful, the way to do life. And I needed to latch on to everybody else and pay all this money and go into all this debt to do the thing I wanted to do. And none of that really took me as far as I felt I could go. So there was always this gap of feeling like not being where I wanted to be. And so, it was just a long evolution of trying to feel like I could really embody belief. And so what I want to take you through now is just some of the ways that I've been able to personally embody somebody who has self-belief, who sees belief as a verb, not just a word, but an action that you implement every day to maintain it, because it's life-changing. And I no longer seek outside approval. Now, there's times where I can catch myself going back into those habits and I have to check it. I check myself. But when you build a strong foundation, like I want to share with you both here in just a moment, it can be long lasting. It doesn't have to be fleeting. And like Sally, like you said, right? Like one day you were at an 8 and now you're at a 5. It's like, it doesn't have to wane so much so soon if you build the muscle of it. So really everything changed when I started just really, I would say, facing myself and being like, if nobody else, if nobody else's voice mattered or nobody else's strategy mattered and I was really doing it my way, what would I do? The next steps are pretty much, so there's 3 main things I'm going to take you ladies through. And these are the things that I personally did and do anytime I feel myself going down a path of feeling small, feeling like I'm not myself. Do you love the drama of this slide? Drama. That is me. So what I did was first, just like what we were talking about, right? Is like really having to have self-awareness of what's even going on. We can't change anything that we don't have awareness to, that we don't even know is happening, right? You can't change what you can't see. So first you have to see it. And this is like, I'm talking about self-belief, but you can use this for any other avenue or any other part of your life where it doesn't feel like it's what you want your life to be, right? It can be in anything, but this is very transferable. But I'm talking about in sense of self-belief. So what I did was I started bringing self-awareness in a different way, where I allowed myself to see the version of me who didn't believe in herself, the version of me who didn't like my reality and wanted a different experience. I allowed myself to see that as a part of me, but not something that was me. Like I didn't define myself as this is just who I am. It was here's a part of me. It's a piece of me. It's like a personality that's coming through, but it's not me. So I started separating myself from that lower version who felt small and who didn't feel good enough. And what I did was actually named it. I gave it a name. And for me, I named her Helga. So anytime there was moments where I felt small or, not enough, I literally was like, oh, that's just Helga showing up. That's not me. So what I want to encourage you to do is anytime there's a version of you who you don't like, who you just wish you could be different, I want you to see that as it's not you. You don't have to own that. You can say, oh, that's a part of me that is showing up right now. And let me just acknowledge her, give her, she wants to know that I see her. She wants to know that, she's seen, but she doesn't have to, she doesn't have to take more stage time than that. I can just let her go. And it's kind of like this inner child, like it's like a inner child reparenting of the self. And that's kind of what I started navigating. So what you can do as well, and I was going to have you ladies do it on the call today, but I think I'll just give you some ideas that you can leave the call with. You can start writing out so you can have more clarity, writing out the qualities of this lower version of you who feels small, who doesn't believe in herself, the person that you are moving away from. You can not only give her a name, so you can say, oh, that's not me, that's Helga or whatever you want to call her. But you can also write out, what are the things the small version of you says? How does she come across in the world, right? What's her body language? And the main question is, what is she afraid of? The times that she's coming out the most to protect me, like, are there any patterns showing up there? Why is she so afraid? And so part of the version of you that you don't like, part of why we don't like it is because we don't understand it. But when we can bring an understanding to it through these journaling exercises, for example, it is so empowering because it allows us to actually remove the power it feels like it has from us because we're facing it through seeing it. So if you can just clearly write out, okay, here's all the qualities of this version of me, then you don't have to own it anymore and you can see it. And sometimes it's like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize, like, it's not actually that big of a deal, the thing she's afraid of. And it does take a minute to sit with it, right? Sometimes these answers, like, that's actually a fairly big question. What is this small self version of me? What is she afraid of? That's actually a big question. And when we can sit with it, it starts to feel less like that's a protection and more like, oh, that is in my way. I can let it go. So that was one of the most powerful things I did, was start to disassociate myself from the version of me that I no longer wanted to be. Is this new awareness. And it makes it easier when those things pop up, right? Instead of feeling like, oh, you don't have a choice in anything, or it's just overtaking your mind. It feels like it's too much and overwhelming you. You can do something about it. You can tag it. You can be like, oh, so for me, I named it because it was easier, instead of me being like, oh, that's my small self that feels blah, 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 that doesn't believe in myself. It was like, oh, that's Helga. Push it away. That's Helga. Push it away. And it's not to bypass. It's just to acknowledge and move on and not allow it to hold as much weight as it has been holding in your life up to this point. The big part of changing our lives and creating these more empowered states is scratching the record a bit. It's like interrupting the old pattern and habit loop by literally doing something different in the moment that you want to continue doing the same habit, the same thing. So that's what I did here. Because I think when you're wanting to change something in your life too, a quality that you have that you're like, oh, I just wish it could be different. Shoot, what was I going to say? I think, when we have somebody, or when we have this part of ourselves that we've had all the time, we've chances are you have worked through it, you've faced it, you've sat with it, or it's been there long enough to where you understand what it's doing. So you're not bypassing yourself by scratching the record. I just want to clearly say that, because I know a lot of people will be like, no, feel your feelings fully. It's like, yes, feel them fully, but the amount that we try to hold on to to say that to say like, I don't want to bypass myself, so I'm going to hold on to it. It's like, you can work through it and finally get to a point where you're ready to let it go. And this is what I'm talking about, is like, if it's been with you for so long that it's weighing on you and it's not allowing you to go where you want to go, allow yourself to do this kind of process. Allow yourself to look at it in a different way and say, you know what, you don't have to have power over me anymore, and give it a name and let it go. So remembering, right, that version of you that you do not like, you do not have to claim her. You can literally say, that is not me. That is whatever name you gave it, and you move on into the second step, which, of course, right, if we're going to name our small self, now so the thing is, it's when we empty, when we release, when we let go of something, it's important that we replace it with something. That space, that's where a lot of times depression comes in. That's where a lot of searching can come in. When you are letting go of things and releasing, like, give yourself that integration time, but it is important to replace it with something positive, more empowering, because when you do that, it's so much easier to go into that new path for yourself. Also, I'm laughing, side note, because this picture is AI, and I just noticed her arm looks crazy. Her arm looks crazy. I get sidetracked easily, obviously. Okay, so what I would encourage somebody to do the next, once you have named your small self and you've just decided, okay, that's not me, and anytime those qualities pop up, I'm tagging it as Helga and I'm moving on. And then when you tag it and you move on, now what we want to do is the work to claim, okay, what am I replacing Helga with, right? What is coming in now? This is where a lot of people say, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want my life to look like. I don't know what the version of me who believes I can have what I want, or who actually really believes in myself, I don't know what that looks like. And so it makes it really hard to feel like you can claim something new. And that's why a lot of people have a really hard time of letting go of their smaller self. They get really terrified when life starts to get really good, or they start to feel more empowered because they don't know what to do with it, because they don't know where they're going. So what I want to encourage in the second step is really finding something to replace with. So what you can do is then journaling things out around, like, who do I want to become next? You can just sit with the questions of, like, who do I want to become? The version of me who feels safe, the version of me who is empowered. Like, how does she talk to herself? How does she come across? What's her body language? What is she really excited about? What is she proud of? What does she spend her time doing? And then, give her a name, or if it's your name, right, owning that and being like, no, that is me, right? Like, instead of Helga, I'm like, no, that's Jesi coming in. Like, I'm bringing her in, and actively including those thoughts. Really, and it's a muscle that you build. It's not something that's just going to happen overnight where suddenly you feel really great, but it's continuously reminding yourself of the version of you that you designed, and writing it out, looking at it, and making it easy for yourself to have this version of you be something you remember. So whether you write it down, like on a sticky note, and you carry it with you, or you put it in your notes app. One of my favorite things to do is actually voice note myself, because it's like, hearing your voice is one of the most powerful activations there is, because your voice is so powerful to yourself specifically, because it's like affirmations that feel like they mean something, because there's your energy behind it. So if you can voice note yourself the qualities of this version, the mindset that she has, the things that she thinks about, the things that she feels, and you can just paint that really clear picture for yourself and then listen back to it. It is so empowering, and it's something that you can get actually some of your belief behind. And when I say belief is a verb, I mean belief is a muscle that you build, and you actively practice you actively work on every day. That's what belief is. It's not something that, like, it's like, eventually you don't have to work as hard on it, but that's because somebody who believes in themselves, when they built this muscle, they've now ingrained new habits, new just ways of being into their life that are more empowering, more lifting them up. And that's what this is. And it makes it easier when you have a sense of, okay, this is the version of me I want to step into. And you get a visual of who this woman is or who this version of you is. And you can see her and you can use her words and, you can feel her mindset. And the things that she wants to express and the things she's thinking, like you can bring that into your mind. So what I encourage somebody to do who's listening to this is to just, when you have time, really spend time writing it out. Write out, who are you now stepping into? What's her name? And really claim her. Because it sounds simple, but I'm telling you, the amount of sessions I've personally done with people, and it doesn't matter how old they are, they literally don't know what they want. And they walk around feeling so lost, so confused, feeling like, when does life finally get to be good and better? And it's because they literally haven't designed what they're moving towards. And so it has them feeling stuck. And when they feel stuck and they feel like they don't know what they're moving towards or what they want their life to be, it makes it really hard to believe in yourself, because there's not, like, you don't even know what you're trying to believe in yourself about. You don't even know what you're trying to back up and be your cheerleader for yourself for. So that's why this step number 2 is super important. What I would love for you to do tonight, writing a letter from your future self, like you 1 year from now, writing it out in detail. That version of you, what does her life look like? Where did she wake up? What does her home look like? Who is she with? What does she do for work? What does she spend her time doing? How does she feel? Feeling is the biggest thing, because if you struggle with details and visualization like I have for a long time, focusing on the feeling of how you want to feel in that version of you is really key. So I encourage you to write yourself a letter, you a year from now, telling yourself, I just had the best year of my life. Here's why. And you just paint that picture in all the details, and you keep that letter close by so you can reread it, you can relook at it, and you can just remember this is the future you're claiming for yourself. That exercise is so powerful. And every time I've done it, everything I wrote down came true. It's just magic. So I don't skip it. I don't skip a year. And I think I started doing that back in like 2019. And it's funny because then the things you think you want, you get them and you're like, oh, actually now I need to refine, because I was focused more on the thing versus the feeling. So that's why I bring the feeling in now. But it's really powerful, and it really ups that self-belief muscle. To personally, one of the reasons why I love writing is because what's happening is that when you bring your thoughts down onto paper and you make them tangible, you're actually completing a circuit. Because when we have a lot of thoughts going on, it's like, you can kind of think of it as wiring in the brain that's kind of like floating, and it's like the wires are trying to connect somewhere, and then they need somewhere else to go. And so when you bring the thoughts to pen and paper, it is completing that circuit, and it's also allowing yourself to really see and visualize a little, or not visualize, but just tangibly get into the energy of your visions and your dreams, and kind of like transports you into that experience and allows you to get even more detailed, because completing circuits. And so your brain feels like it has places to set your ideas. So it's, writing is just very, very powerful. It's number 3. So I said, let it be fun. You are in control. This picture is actually when I finally decided to believe in myself. One of the first things I did was this was a podcast I had before the one I have currently. But it was the most freeing I'd ever felt in the journey of trying to help people, because I was just finally doing it my way. And so that brought me to this realization of, okay, so once you like have faced and brought awareness, and you just let go of the lower part of yourself, and then you've replaced it with the new reality that you more would rather have, you can then play this game of life a little bit different. You can do what I like to call gamify. Kind of gamify the experience. You make it fun. There's just a couple things that I personally did once I started feeling like I knew what I was moving towards. I knew more of who I wanted to be, and I started really stepping into her. There were some things that I did, and I'm just going to list them off a little bit for you. So these things that I did consistently that allowed me to feel like I was actually starting to embody the version of me I more wanted to be. It stopped being just a thought and a concept and just like a dreamy, like, yeah, it would be nice. Sometime it would be nice. It started to become real. And so the first thing I did was, once I started to get clear, I then became delusional. I became delusional and I became overly positive. Overly positive. Like, I think in the beginning, when you're wanting to reprogram and you're wanting to become a new version of you, you really do have to call it a bypass. It's bypassy a little bit, I will say, because there comes a point where you kind of do have to stop trying to heal and overcome, and I don't know. I got to the point where I was so sick of being in the life that I had that I just wanted it to be different. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to change all my negative thoughts, and I'm just going to start being overly positive, because I felt like I had to trick my brain to stop playing the victim. I had to get out of my own way and finally build a muscle, a new neurological links, whatever you want to call them. Like, I just had to rewire. And so what I did is I just started being overly positive. Anytime I had a negative thought, and around, like, anytime that I could catch it, right? Because we have so many thoughts a day, so we're not going to catch them all. But like, anytime I had a thought that I had awareness to that was negative, I did not let myself do my old habit thing of dwelling on it, stewing on it, overthinking it, wishing it would be different. I didn't give it more stage time than that. I let it come up, and then I immediately switched the thought to something more positive, something more empowering, something that made me feel more like the version I was actively choosing to step into, because I wanted my life to be different. And in order to get different, you have to move different. You have to think different. You have to become different. And it was the only thing I had never tried. Because I'm such a person who is like, feel all of your feelings, observe them, move through them, like, ask what they're there to tell you. But at some point, I got sick of feeling like that. And I just wanted to believe in myself. I wanted a bigger life. And so it didn't mean that life wasn't still presenting me challenges. It didn't mean that life didn't still feel hard in some spots. But it meant that I wasn't choosing to give my power away to every single thought that felt bad. And so that's what I started. That was one of the things I started doing, was just becoming overly delusional in my mind, which led me to one of the games I started to play. Actually, it's something that I learned from somebody else. I did not create this, so I just don't want to take that credit, but I have implemented it every single day since I've learned this thing, and it's been life-changing. And it's a way to gamify this process of belief. And it basically said, so what you do is, I don't know if you guys remember this trend that was going around social media for a while, where it said, but it's like, I'm actually 80 something years old or 90 something years old, but today I woke up in my 30-year-old body, or whatever age you are. I woke up in my 30-year-old body, and I don't remember why life brought me to this exact day, but it's the best day of my life. And I don't remember, and I don't know why, but life is going to show that to me. It's going to prove that to me. And I can't wait to see why it's the best day of my life. And so when you wake up in the morning, again, this is a practice, but what happens is that is reprogramming your mind to expect the good, to look for the good, to find the good everywhere, or not necessarily, like with the tight grip being like, where's the good? But just starting your day, that mindset of like, no, this is going to be a really good day that happens to me. I actually caught myself, because I do this all the time now, I actually kind of forgot to think about it for a couple days. And then there was like, I remember my morning was going wonky the other day, and I was like, no, it's not taking my power. I don't know why, but this is going to be the best day of my life. And I just smiled and I just went about my day. And then without me having to think about it, magical synchronicity started happening, or things just started to be more in flow, and it happened very quickly. And so that energy is really powerful. And sometimes when people are like struggling to feel gratitude because their life feels really heavy, and it's like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to feel gratitude, but like, I just I can't really feel gratitude right now. It's like, this is one of the ways that you can fake it till you make it without feeling like you're just focusing on the lie. Like sometimes that focus of just be grateful, it's like, it feels like one big lie. At least it has for me in the past. So I really enjoyed playing this game, and that's something that I literally do every day now. So it's just brought me a lot of peace. The other things, and on the talk of gratitude, again, if you don't feel like you can have gratitude, something you can do is focus on the nuance of, actually, instead of gratitude, it's what can I appreciate? One of my mentors recently taught me that, and I was like, that is so good, because it doesn't feel like a lie. It's like, no, I can maybe I'm not grateful right now for something, but like I can at least appreciate that I have this in my life. For example, like if you want more money, like, I'm not necessarily grateful for the amount in my account, but like I do appreciate what I have. Like at least I appreciate it. And there's a slight nuance there. So you can do these things that take you out of your sense of misery and into a more empowered place where you feel more like you're kind of like in control a bit. And so that right there is something that is a foundational component of self-belief, is not wallowing in what you wish was happening and being not in the present, but instead in saying, okay, I embrace what is and I accept it, and I'm going to move through it as gracefully as I can. That right there is one of the main ways you can stay in self-belief, because you're choosing to believe that better is on its way. And I don't know, when I was just in my deepest, darkest despair with self-belief, I struggled to believe in anything that wasn't my moment, which was painful and hard at the time. I like really struggled to get out of that moment. The last thing I wanted to do was be grateful for my moment, because I was like, I want this to change so bad. And so, it's just like I think sometimes too, you have to hit a rock bottom. And that's unfortunately what happened to me. I hit my lowest bottom of the barrel moment, and I realized that I can't do this anymore. And so that's why I'm really passionate about this subject too, is because I don't want people to have to get to the bottom of the barrel before they finally decide to believe in themselves. If there's anybody that listens to this and they feel like they're at the bottom of their barrel, it's a slow build with stuff like this every day, and it really will change your life. And then before you know it, what'll happen is you'll start to be able to believe in the idea of hope. Something that Tony Robbins says is the happiness doesn't come from the outcome that we want. The happiness comes from the process. And when we're in pure joy of that process, that's when we actually feel the most fulfilled. And so it's the same thing with this, like getting to like the main things that we want to have happen in our life, to where we're like, yeah, I made it. I can finally believe in myself. That is not what creates that's not what creates the self-belief. If you're waiting for that to happen, you're going to be waiting forever. But if you can find a way to believe in yourself in the process, in the journey of it, even at the bottom of your barrel, you can find a way to believe that there's more for you. And, you start to embrace the little steps to get to that bigger viewpoint of yourself where you're like, yeah, I got this. That actually is one of the most empowering things. And it can also make you just really fall in love with yourself, because when you're I keep saying the bottom of your barrel because I felt that for so long. It's like when you realize you're just sitting there and there's nowhere else for you to go but up, truly, that's when you see yourself the most. And you feel naked and you feel exposed and vulnerable, but then it's also the time where you see yourself maybe the most you've ever really seen yourself, because you can't avoid it. There's nothing to avoid anymore. And it's the most beautiful thing at the same time. And then everything gets to come from there. They say, flowers and stuff, they don't grow from perfectly paved gold streets, right? They grow from the dirt. They grow from the mud. They have to grow from substance and the ground, right? The earth and the real, then the muddy, they have to grow from that. And that's a lot of times what our life presents to us as well, is like kind of growing from the mud, coming out, from the bottom. Now we're here. It's like you have to sometimes go through that journey, but it can be temporary and it doesn't have to last forever. And it can be something where you look back on and you're like, wow, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be who I am today. Another thing I'm really big on is not following, like, because people will say, oh, create little rituals, create little things. Like, I'm giving you gals things that I personally have done in my own journey to like feel empowered and to keep this belief muscle strong. But you got to find what works for you. So this is also part of it, is like, don't be afraid to try things out. Don't be afraid to test things out that you're curious about. You know, I tell people all the time to do the voice note apps and listen back to it, you know, because our voice is so empowering. But some people, you know, don't resonate with that, or it doesn't work for them, but they don't know until they try. And maybe if you try it, it actually could be the one thing that's like, wow, this has changed my life. So I encourage people to try little things that you can have fun with and play around with to get into that belief muscle for yourself. So what I was doing in my journey of building self-belief was working on creating daily belief, creating some kind of something I could consider as a ritual that I would do every single day. My goal was always do one thing every day that made me proud. And so whatever was one thing you can do to show up for yourself, what's going to happen is that's going to stack evidence for you. And what's very cool is that the brain rewards you the same way, whether you do something major, a major accomplishment, or a small task, tiny task. It's going to have the same receptors go off in the brain, regardless of the size of the task. So it doesn't have to be something major that can build the sense of self-trust, which is self-belief. So to fully step more into your power, into your belief muscle, I did, the first thing is you face the disbelief. By facing it, you remove its heavy power from your life. And then you figure out, what are you redesigning? What are you actually stepping into? Who are you becoming? And you claim her and you start to design her and make her real. And then the third thing is gamify. Now that she's real, how are you going to make it so she is embodied and you can become her now to fully own your sense of belief and your sense of personal power in the journey?